the Tropicana resort. Of course, there is gambling. This is Las Vegas. How could there not be? But not little people gambling. Not here, not now. This is not nickel slots or penny slots or quarter slots. This is big money, and that kind of money gets its own room. Sometimes called a high roller suite. Sometimes given some other names. Here, it's just simply the high roller suite. But this is where we find the Van Horsts. It is June 1st, 1957, and an atomic bomb is supposed to go off in the middle of the night tonight. But that might not be the most exciting thing that happens. So, Van Horsts, we are in the high rollers room, and we are spending money. What game are we playing tonight? Are we all together? Have you split up? What's the plan right now?
I feel like Clara wants to make certain that the other siblings are playing a game they feel comfortable with. So either blackjack, or if we really just want to flash throw money around and see what luck is like, probably roulette. Once they're settled, Clara is going to go play baccarat because that's where the real money is, and that's where she can show off how intelligent she is. But she wants to flash and show off that they're willing to spend money where they're good at it or not, and then show her own prowess. So where do the other two want to start or go?
Since I think the idea tonight is to be like seen as expensive and lucky, Bethany is willing to go play roulette.
Ooh.
And lose a bunch and then not.
Okay.
And I think that Matthew has enough pride that he wants something where, like, there is at least an element of skill. So he's going to probably be off at blackjack.
All very good choices. But there are some complications. Clara, this is in many ways the environment in which you got used to taking drugs.
Yes.
The noise, the alcohol, the cigarettes, this is kind of your addiction's home base. So let's roll for our addiction and see if it sunk its claws back into you after a couple of days of not.
Yeah. Oh no, there we are. That's a 5. So yeah, the vice feeds vice, and she really, is really hurting and is back into the viceful room and very much wants to use, clearly.
Now, is this something you're fighting at this point, or are you going to kind of ride it out, so to speak?
Well, I think the question is, how much does she have left? I don't know that Matthew actually had to use any of her supply because we got him out into the other hospital with Dr. Nolte, but does she have much left?
No, she does not have much. She, it's not something like you have an equipment sheet with a little card.
No, but I think in general, like, she packed for, a week. We've been here a little longer than that now, and she used very heavily at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely, the one bean is rattling at the bottom of the can.
Yeah.
Metaphorically. So you're going to, if you're going to be here, you either need to kick this, which sounds like wet hell, or you're going to have to find a provider.
Yeah. I think she's going to try to kick it and try to, like, focus through being in the high rollers room and being around a lot of people who are very drunk and smoking a lot and probably also on other substances as much as she can. And you've got moves, because that's how that works when I fail.
Yeah.
Also, if you want to use them, but right now she doesn't want to have to go through withdrawal again. Really.
Yeah.
That's awful.
Well, it's definitely like you are either going to start feeling the effects of withdrawal, or you need to use, like, in this long scene. Not right now, but in the near future, Clara is definitely going to need to either commit to the consequences of withdrawal or stave them off with the use, because that beast is on your back.
Yeah.
It is not a small monkey right now. It is a 800-pound gorilla, and it is screaming in your ear.
Well, this is awful to say. She has the goal of meeting Eddie Fisher and possibly Debbie Reynolds, who should also be with him at this point in time. And they both were heavy drug users of some sort or another back in the day.
Oh, no.
So maybe her new friends will get her a hookup and she can be cool by doing drugs with the cool kids in Vegas.
Yeah, that's an option. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, so right now she's not using. She has the idea of, like, I've made it this long, maybe I can just get off of this stuff.
Okay.
Doesn't feel good.
All right, so let's do the rest of the round. Bethany, you want to, it sounds a little bit like sharking.
A little bit.
So are you actually going to trust the winds of fate in this, or are you going to, are you going to lean? Are you going to apply some causal pressure?
Oh, eventually she will. She is the beginning of the night. She's willing to ride fate and see what happens, but she figures about a couple hours in, hour and a half into gambling, she will begin to apply some mental pressure to the roulette ball.
Okay. Let's roll for schizophrenia then. If we're gonna... It was a 20 or a 2.
I mean, I rolled a 6. She's negative a bunch. Hang on.
I can't imagine that you're at +3.
I'm not. I'm not. There's no way. Do I? Do. Oh, it's a flat roll anyway. So yeah, it's a 6.
Okay.
Oh, it's a flat roll, and I'm at negative. I only have -1 on disadvantage rolls right now. Bethany got a little more stable, apparently. No, that's old. That is wrong. I am way more. I think I'm still at -2s for those. So, yeah. So she's at a 4.
Yeah, we're at a less than 9.
Very less than 9.
Very less than 9.
Yep.
Okay. Well, on the bright side, you are perfectly in the mindset to actually attempt to manipulate reality.
Yeah.
Matthew, how are you feeling? Is this a stressful environment for you?
So it comes down to 2 questions.
Sure.
The first one is, how are my wounds doing?
I mean, good and bad.
That's my bad. That was
yeah. You're healing at an adequate rate of speed.
Yeah.
But you're also healing in a hotel room.
Yeah.
And the family doctor who flew out from Pittsburgh, he's really, really good, but he's not simulate hospital setting good.
Yeah.
So,
I assumed that I still had the serious wound, but I wanted to check with that. But so that's distracting.
yes.
The other question is, and he would talk to Clara about this. He's like, you want us to drop some money and do this. If we win too much, is that a problem? Because that's going to determine whether what he does.
So I actually had an idea about that, where I think after a little initial background, all of that, Clara, if Bethany is willing to gently spin some odds, actually would suggest that we all get together and go to the craps table and use a lot of money at craps, because if Bethany can get the dice to continue not crapping out, and we spend a lot of money, the casino will also make a lot of money, because the more hot streaks you get on a dice, the more people are going to play for the house, because they're going to think you're eventually going to lose, and then the rest of the table fucking loves you because you're a hot streak on the dice and you are lucky. And this is like, a hot craps table is one of the most exciting things in a casino. If you get on a big long roll and you just keep hitting the not hitting the pass line, people can make tons of money or lose tons of money, and you become the most popular people around because clearly Bethany is lovely and a little strange, and our lucky blonde who's blowing on those dice and then rolling and is hitting the mark constantly.
Have to roll. I can just blow in the dice. You guys can roll. I'll just
exactly. And that will make us the most popular people in the room with the people playing at that craps table and the casino, because there will always be people playing against us, assuming that we're eventually going to lose.
Okay.
So I shouldn't do blackjack, is what you're saying?
No, we should all go to craps together and play as a family and
that's
try
fine.
to make.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, we could, I mean, so let's make that be kind of like where we kind of like go live.
Yeah.
So everyone has played various and sundry games, and now you've spent enough money that you won't get gently dissuaded now from the craps table. The craps table reached the appropriate economic and social place where stepping in and doing what you guys hope you'll be able to do can work.
Yeah, because like I know what Matthew's instinct would be for blackjack, and I was like thinking about it, and I was like, ooh, that's a bad instinct. So, because Matthew likes to win, and if you win too much at blackjack or something like that, that could be a problem.
Yes.
And so like I was like, Matthew wouldn't know if you win too much at blackjack. That would be a problem, but he'd probably talk to Clara because this is not his world.
Yeah, and it's really hard to, short of counting cards, which none of us really could do, it's really hard to win a lot of blackjack. It's really hard.
I will say 100% counting cards is what he was going to attempt to do, and so that's why he shouldn't.
Probably, yeah. So we're all vaguely playing our other games and just putting a lot of money down, making $100 to $500 bets per hand, and getting the notice of people and like proving sometimes we're up and sometimes we're down, and we clearly have the money to spend on this. Claire's been at the baccarat table being as expert as possible and earning her way into, she's still a woman playing a man's game.
Yes.
Gambling is very much a man's profession and a man's world. So she has spent a good hour or two through the dinner break drinking and smoking cigars, and I'm sorry, Matthew, flirting with some of the guys and being incredibly competent at the game of baccarat, because that's what you play if you really, really know what you're doing. And once she's kind of earned her way into the, you know, people actually accepting that she's a good gambler, she's going to drop the hint of like, oh, my sister's really good luck and I'd love to play with my brother. We were thinking of going to craps. Do you want to join us? With the people that she's had fun playing baccarat with. So she has her little like commune of people who knows how to gamble, and she will take care of her siblings who may or may not. And all of us will convene at the craps table where she's like, no, I got this. Let my sister blow on some dice. She's really, really lucky.
Okay. I think that all sounds super great. But what we're going to do later towards the end of the scene, unless something makes it really not reasonable, is Clara's gonna make an influence other roll. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna let us know how well Clara has ensnared the good intentions and attentions of the other top tier people staying at the Tropicana right now. Because, you know, there's a lot of money in this room. There's a lot of business connections in this room, Matthew. There are people with whom it would be good to have positive memories associated with you. So
I 100% am for that. I think that all he would do is, I think there's a move for helping others.
Mm-hmm.
So like that would be the idea that I would have, is that basically I would have myself, and I don't know what Bethany would want to do like a helping others role to basically boost any role that Clara does for the influence others, so that kind of like we help the environment and like help kind of pump people up.
Yes. Well, Matthew's assistance in this is mundane.
Yes.
You know, he's shaking hands, making hands, you know, occasionally seeing that someone wants to place a particular bet, or they have a habit of betting maybe 100 or 200 or, you know, a certain number on every table, and you lend them 100 to get them, to keep them in the game along their comfortable pattern. That kind of, and this is Matthew being a benevolent, wealthy aristocrat, which is absolutely kind of in trope for him. So I feel like he could probably pull that assist off. But Bethany is going to try to fuck with reality, based off what we've talked about. So Bethany is going to have to deal with something else at the appropriate time. So whenever in this process, Bethany, whenever you decide to reach behind the illusion and start plucking at some guts, let me know.
I mean, once we hit the craps table, she's just gonna use telekinesis to keep popping the dice. Like that thing where, you know, big movie shot, you see it, oh, it lands on a thing, but then the dice bounce just a little bit at the very, very end, and it looks real bad, but it isn't. She's gonna be that little flick.
As long as we don't hit a 7 or 11, so if you see it's landed on one of those, you tip a die over. It doesn't matter what other number it hits.
Right? Yeah.
If it's our point, all the better, we make more money, but it doesn't matter what other number it hits. It's real easy to cheat.
She's just gonna tip those dice a little bit.
Okay.
Oh, that's a free action.
That is super, super risky.
Mm-hmm.
Like, essentially, you guys are going to ride a hot streak that isn't real.
Yep.
And Bethany is going to manipulate the dice in a way that, I mean, because understand also, if these dice start to act funny, the magic, like the illusion, the illusion shatters. So if the dice start acting fucky, this isn't going to work. So this is a lot of pressure on Bethany. So Bethany, you're going to need to roll to keep it together.
Sure. Let's see what we do about that. That was I rolled a 3. So there's no coming back from wherever I am. I rolled it.
You do not have a +6.
I don't. I'm sure I have negatives somewhere. It really doesn't matter. It was not a close to anything.
Okay. I mean, that works. There are serious consequences. You make a mistake or you're exposed to danger. The GM makes a move.
Sounds right.
And so a move happens.
Yeah.
And you'll hear about it here in a minute.
Great. Yeah.
So craps. It starts off great. Dice are rolling. You know, Bethany, how well do you feel you're pulling off in the midst of this kind of breathing wall, all of the possibilities of the dice spreading across the table like a combination of blood and rubies poured from a chalice, and you know there's still that little, every so often out of the corner of your eye you'll see one of those little fairy mushrooms that seem to have never decided to leave.
Yeah, I think that she alternates from being staring at the table like a little too intensely, like not quite there, getting very distracted by what's happening, and getting too distracted by things out of the corner of her eye. So she's definitely not all there. So she's trying really hard to smile, blow on the dice when they're like put in front of her, and then watch the end number as it lands. And she has moved into a pattern that is those 3 things. So those are the only 3 things she's paying attention to in reality. And everything else is a gentle roar around her.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah, she's not super aware of any of her surroundings.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your lucky charm is a little weird tonight. Which it doesn't spoil the vibe, but it changes it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
because now we're the gambling rich people from out east with a weird sister. I mean, like, and this is home base for the Van Horsts in many ways.
Yeah.
It wasn't the perfect objective. And this is absolutely the plate that is Bethany's psyche is wobbling on the stick.
Mm-hmm.
And if it goes wrong, it's going to go super duper duper wrong.
Mm-hmm.
I have an idea.
Go for it.
Yeah.
So there is a aspect here of like what I'm doing specifically to help kind of promote stuff is that sort of like benevolent aristocrat bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
I want to try, and this really is just the same thing that I'm doing anyway, which is the helping out. Clara's influencing everybody, but like he's going to turn that slightly so that it's also, I'm so sorry, Bethany,
Okay.
turning to the thing of like, oh, it's so nice of them that they're helping their broken sister. Like they're letting her come out to see people.
And she's not touching the dice. She's not putting money down. She's
Yeah.
getting to see the world and blow on some dice and be included.
And it's that sort of thing where like he feels real bad about it because he's had whole talks with Bethany about this before, and we'll have fun later. But like he will twist that sort of aspect and in how he behaves with to try to mitigate that in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I
remember,
love you, Bethany. I'm sorry.
remember, if you're acting like the Van Horst, you need to go to therapy.
Yeah.
It's okay. Let's reinforce all the bad feelings Bethany has about herself.
Fine, it's fine.
Totally fine.
So this probably isn't great for Bethany.
Not super great.
No. No, I imagine not. Well, let's see. So, Matthew, how about you roll that aid another action,
Okay.
and let's see if you trying to kind of turn the narrative is going to do it.
Let's find out.
So, okay, so your attribute is the same as the other player is rolling. She's rolling influence other,
That's charisma, right?
which is plus charisma.
Yeah. Okay. So that is a 13, and then I subtract 1 because my injuries are distracting me.
Okay.
So that would be a 12 plus 3.
Still 15.
It turns
That's
into
15?
a 15. Yeah. Yeah, you can, Clara, you actually get to add a +2 to your roll, presumably a +2. I mean, if you wanted to do this differently, you could apply a -2 to their roll, but I'm pretty confident that you want to make them roll.
Please no.
Not the moment to take out your anger over the night spent with the cop, huh?
Look, we already did that.
Should I make my roll now?
Yes, please.
Okay. 12. Oh, that should be fine because +2 +3, and I'm not at any negatives. So yeah, that's a 17.
Okay. So, Clara, the good news is that overall, you guys have done a fucking bang-up job of either simulating or actually being rich gambling dilettantes, exactly the kind that a casino would absolutely love to have here every other weekend, with more big cartoon bags of money with the dollar signs printed on them. So overall, the mood is extremely positive. You shake some hands. Matthew makes some friends. We'll just kind of back pocket those friends for later. Some hands are shaken. You have two new cigars that you didn't have when you walked into the room. These big, the big hyper masculine cigars, tucked into the jacket pocket. Matthew, you've got some ins. this feels a little bit better than when you went to that martini business meeting. What, almost not even a week ago, barely a week ago.
You don't talk about the martini business meeting.
We don't talk about the martini meeting. Yeah, that was the first episode. So yeah, this feels a little bit better.
And what Clara is dropping as a line, especially as she kind of talks to Matthew's contacts and the people that she has made, is, well, I'm really in town from New York because I'm going to be doing a new show in Vegas, but Eddie and Debbie, or at least Debbie's a good old friend of mine. I know that she's incredibly fond of Eddie, who's playing here. I don't want to step on his toes. So hopefully I can meet him or meet one of his people, and either we can work together or we can at least make certain the show's schedules aren't hurting each other, because I don't want to hurt an old friend, and I think that what I'm going to be doing is going to be quite big. So if you know anybody, Debbie's quite caught up with a new baby, so I don't really want to bother her, but I'd love to talk to Eddie about the show.
Yes. Now, to clarify, is Clara actually a friend of Eddie Fisher, or is this
Debbie,
kind of...
She and Debbie Reynolds, who's Eddie Fisher's wife at the moment, would have crossed paths in the movie scene and in the New York theater scene, because Debbie was on the New York stage the same time Clara was. Okay. Debbie might think she's a washed up addict, but they were friends at one point in time.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure that if it was going to be that scene from Guardians of the Galaxy where he goes, who? That's...
Yeah, Eddie probably doesn't know her very well. Debbie and she would know each other.
It is enough.
It's enough.
It is enough that a name recognition plus leverage from the high roller mechanism of the hotel is enough for a drink. Before probably, yeah. So what? Did you say you wanted to start this around like dinner time? So are we thinking like early afternoon, dinner time?
Yeah, probably. She wanted to be going into dinner after dinner. People were getting a little drunk at the tables and a little more loquacious than they would be in the afternoon. So this is going through dinner hour into the, we've been gambling all afternoon because we're having fun, and now we are too drunk because we never ate.
Okay.
Hour. Yeah.
Well, it is one of Eddie Fisher's nights off. Now remember, he's only here for like 4 weeks out of the year. Mm-hmm. He's not living here. But he is here. Debbie is here. And if the hotel can get you into expensive reservations at a restaurant, which they will of course comp you that, because you guys have spent, I don't know, the GDP of Brussels in this room in the last 6 hours. Mm-hmm. Yes, so that is all arranged. So the way it will be arranged is that at dinner tonight, which you just got comped because that's how money works. When you spend it, you get more free things because the economy is terrible. They will swing by and have a drink and say hi and have a brief conversation. Essentially, what the high rolling mechanism can do is get you guys sitting at the same table with a drink in your hand. And if you as an individual or you as a group of individuals can spin that into something more, great. And please don't forget who got you at that table. Mm-hmm. But, they clearly can't get any more promised than a kissed baby and a shaken hand, politically speaking. So, yeah, it's you guys, Bethany, it works great as near as you can tell. You've done a good job. You do, however, you have a sore finger. Okay. Because you've been doing some stress flicking under the table as you mentally flick the dice. Because remember, this telekinesis thing is new. It's not terribly controlled. Usually it's used more like a piece of threshing equipment than precision work. So this is a bit of a brain bleeder.
Yep.
For Bethany, and it is definitely one of those things where an insight you receive from this is that you cannot do this and remain unmolested by the world. Mm-hmm. This is you are not Jean Grey.
Mhm.
You know, it's you want to be able to go telekinesis with no negative drawbacks, flow. This is essentially the world is falling apart, and you have managed to find a couple of handles, and you are pulling at the falling apart machine of reality, and every so often you manage to get a series of functional things to happen.
Yeah.
However, as you leave to go to dinner,
Mhm.
all three of you feel it, but Bethany feels it a lot. I mean, this is a gaze that is directed at Bethany, and kind of has a splash on the other two. I described him earlier, the pit boss for the high rolling area, whose name is Mac Prince, which is clearly not the name he was born with. That is clearly an Americanization of something Latino. It's, you know, it's 1957. Everybody's Mexican. You know, it's, yeah, I know, it's awful. That's not me. But it's definitely one of those, like, what are people from Pittsburgh going to do? They're going to go, okay, how many hairs are you going to split? So clearly he's Americanized his name. He's very handsome. And Bethany, he is looking directly at you as you walk out with this, his face is very expressive. He has what you would call an actor's face. It reminds you of your sister's face, where their ability to transmit information using their facial their facial expressions is significant. And he is frowning at you in a way you haven't been frowned at since Papa died.
And this is the same man that I saw talking to the woman who I got the premonition she would be dead outside the hotel.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, and it is almost physical,
Mm-hmm.
the pressure of his attention.
Mm-hmm.
And there is, you have been marked.
Mm-hmm.
You have been marked by Mac, the pit boss. And you are immediately and inarguably aware of the fact that Mac has marked you, and that is a very bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So whether or not he has marked you as someone who is touched and therefore is a potential for trouble, as a damaged person that's around too much money for him to simply kick out of the room,
Mm-hmm.
or if you've been marked.
Yeah.
But if you recall also that lady that you found dead had something that looked a little bit like some gambling information.
Mm-hmm.
So something's up.
Yeah.
Something's up. Thankfully, you leave his demps almost immediately, but as you leave, you do see him go over to the craps table,
Mm-hmm.
and he is working with. Is it a dealer at craps still?
There's 3 craps dealers or croupiers. So yes, there's actually 3 of them.
Okay, and he goes over to them and does the benevolent, like, I'm sorry, I have to do a thing sort of body language, and immediately begins cleaning the table. You know, the dice are going away. All of the little things that the casino brings to the table, those are all being reset. So whatever the crap version of a new shoe of cards is being brought over. Yeah, but that's a later problem. Right now there is a fancy dinner to be had. There are drinks and there are some famous people to meet. So it's dinner time. Clara's too drunk. Matthew, how drunk are you?
Probably not as drunk as Clara, but probably not sober.
Okay, so pickled for taste, not for preservation? Okay. Bethany, where are we at? Have we consumed any chemicals, or have we just simply gotten high on the crumbling nature of existence?
We were probably also drinking, but less than both Clara and Matthew, because everybody was happy and it was a party and everyone had a drink in their hand. So Bethany also did, because not doing that would be weird, and she's already weird. So trying to blend in there. So yeah, she's been drinking, but not in a way that she's been paying attention to, because everything else was more.
So she's probably been, what, doing like a whiskey and soda, heavy on the soda?
Yeah.
Okay. Clara, you need to get a hit.
Yeah.
You need to get dosed up to handle what's coming, or you are going to have to handle it in the storm of the beginnings of serious withdrawal discomfort.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You do not have a lot of time to troubleshoot this.
She's gonna use her last that she has in the hotel room and hope that she'll be able to make a connection over the next 24 hours. Because she needs to have her head on straight to meet these people, and this is a very important connection, and at least be calm for us to see the test of the bomb tonight. So this seems like the right time that she's really got to use her last.
Okay.
And she knows Debbie was doing things when they were back on Broadway. Like, Debbie Reynolds, fairly famous for being off and on drugs. She might not be right now because she had a baby 9 months ago, but she definitely was. So she's like, Debbie might know people. But she's going to use her last hit now before they go down for dinner while they're changing.
Okay. How does that feel? I mean, how does it feel to consume your last available dose of your preferred drug?
A little terrifying.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it feels, once she takes it, it feels great. She's been waiting for a while, and she really missed it. Now she's comfortable and home, and it's the happy little relaxing high. Going into using it, she felt terrified. She's like, realistically, I'm putting myself in a bad situation, and I need to get more, and this is bad. But then once it hits, she's like, it's fine. I've gotten more before plenty of times. I have those pills that I got when people were hurt. It's fine. And this feels great. I'm gonna go see Debbie again, and she's great. And like, it's just the happy little high of, oh, she was off it for a bit, and she forgot how nice this felt.
Yeah. Okay. And Dr. Nolte will be able to give you something. I mean, maybe not heroin, but certainly some opium derivative, right? I mean, Matthew doesn't count as pills, does he? No.
Does Matthew know that you just took your last?
Probably, yeah. He knew that she was really light on it, and she told him that she would save. She doesn't have much left, but she would save it for him when we thought we'd just have to kidnap him out of the hospital. And before using it, because she does love him, she loves him so much, she'll probably like pick it up and be like, do you think you need this? Because if you don't, I do.
He probably was about to take one of like the pills that he needs for like the actual like wound he has.
Yeah.
And he actually puts it back in the bottle and says it'll be fine.
Take your pill. We can get more off of Dr. Nolte. If you don't need this, I'm gonna...
Hey, go.
Okay.
I'll take mine.
Okay.
When
Then we usually do drugs together.
When she goes to go, like take her thing, he does not take his.
Okay.
He's like, because Matthew's like, I've seen what happened. He's just gonna, because like he's experienced now like some of the times where like things got stretched, and he's like, he doesn't have enough knowledge of how much the pills he's taking would help, but he doesn't want to risk not having them at hand if they would.
Okay.
And so if that's a problem for him later, we can absolutely like deal with that. But like that, Matthew does a lot of stupid things for Clara.
Bethany, do you do any preparatory anythings, either for dinner or now under the gaze of gambling Sauron, so to speak?
Yeah. Bethany is gonna try to ghost again. Her just mental dampening everything down and attempt to be less noticeable.
Okay.
Go into the pattern of trying to be a shadow behind her two siblings so that nobody can see how weird she is.
That's super sad.
She's out
Okay.
with people, and that isn't what she had for like a good decade. So if she can just be invisible, she can still be there.
Yeah. It's a perfectly reasonable tactic and absolutely in character. Just a moment of sadness on Bethany's behalf.
It's sad. That's what she's doing, because the other option is to like sit in a dark room by herself.
Yeah.
And be like, I have a migraine, go away. Those are her options. So she's gonna ghost.
Okay. So it's dinner.
Yeah.
It is fantastic. I don't know what it is. It's probably crown roast of lamb and fingerling potatoes and I don't know, maybe it's Russian service, which is if you guys have never seen Russian service, it's when all the food comes out on a platter and then I did it and I hated it. And then they put it so like the entire table's worth of food is out on the platter and then they transfer it to your plate and like arrange it on the plate. It's absolutely decadent. It's completely bonkers, and I still have nightmares. So yeah, it's good stuff. And so how is before your visitors show up? How is the tenor of dinner? Like how is the tone? I mean, how are we feeling? Are we feeling positive about this? I mean, what's the general assessment?
Clara is, and she's like gently playing footsie with Matthew under the table and is a little worried about Bethany, is like checking in and trying to keep Bethany engaged in conversation, but isn't certain how to make that better. But otherwise, Clara's setting up to have a good time. She wants to project happiness and enjoyment and confidence and charisma to these people. And so she's gonna method act it and feel that way and ride her high as long as she can. Yeah.
Okay. Bethany, there is almost a desire to sink into something, to sink into the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And really, I think it's pretty comfortable to say that the only being that you would really like to sink into is probably the woman in red.
Yeah.
You don't really cuddle your siblings. And there is a moment where you can almost imagine her arms. And let's remember that she is taller than you and she is strong.
Mm-hmm.
And there is almost a kind of a feeling almost as if she's kind of doing the hug from the back where the arms go underneath the bust and they squeeze the ribs and it's very warm and comforting. And then there is the full body revulsion of greasy canvas as the warm embrace of the woman for whom you have longed for many years turns into the clutch of a filthy straitjacket.
Mm-hmm.
And it is extremely difficult to identify exactly where one became the other.
Mm-hmm.
And the straitjacket is raw hell, but it does cover you up, and it does wrap you up, and it does put a certain comforting pressure on your chest and ribs and back. And so, is it really that bad?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, is it worth getting a hug if the hug's from your nightmare?
Mm. Depends.
A question to lay in bed and stare at the ceiling contemplating.
Yep.
Well, most of dinner is fantastic. And then we get our visitors, which are the inimitable Eddie Fisher and Debbie Reynolds. Now, I found this out, and Erica blew my mind because I don't pay attention to anything. The baby that Debbie just gave birth to was the one and only space mom, Carrie Fisher.
Correct.
Yep.
So,
She's about 9 months old on our timeline.
yeah, which is just... I mean, they both look fantastic. You know, Eddie is just absolutely at the height of his career. Debbie seems to be recovering very well. You are almost entirely certain that at least one of them isn't sober. And by isn't sober, we don't mean drunk. I mean, 'cause, like, you know, it's dinner time. It's Las Vegas. No one's sober.
Yeah.
But we're talking about on other things. So you're pretty confident that Debbie's on something. Eddie might be, but if he is, it's on not as much. So are you, what's your objective right now in this conversation? Do you want to, what do you want to get out of it?
The moment they come over, it's Clara is greeting old friends, or at least greeting Debbie like an old friend, and then shaking Eddie's hand and going, I know we never got to talk much, it was years ago, but I'm so happy to see you both happy together. I hope the baby's well. These are my siblings. You never got to meet them. Matthew, Bethany. This is Debbie. This is Debbie's husband, Eddie. It's so good to see you. Please sit down, please, and have one drink with us at least. It has been entirely too long. And if I can steal you away from that baby, we will go have fun tonight, but at least stay and have one drink.
Okay. So Debbie kind of heads up the beginning of the conversation. Eddie ends up sitting next to Matthew on kind of in the arrangement. And he gives you kind of a very genial kind of a hi, how are you? It's just, you know, he's got a great voice, and it's just, you know, and you guys small talk for a little while, the schmooze.
Yeah. Like, I feel like Matthew is imbibing a little bit more than before because like he's like, fine, everything's fine. And I think a lot of his stuff is like being able to, and he's dealt with this before, like in business, like having a casual small talk conversation while dropping in various aspects that will lead around to to be able to like talk about certain business ventures. Oh yeah, like, you know, my sister Clara actually was recently talking about, you know, this recent thing that she was interested in. You should talk to her about it, like that sort of thing, like so that he will have the breadcrumbs of like basically like, you know, once both, you know, segregated genders have had their like sort of conversations, to be able to be like, I've heard, you know, these things, to kind of lead to that conversation with Clara. And that's sort of where he's kind of doing this.
Yeah. And Mr. Fisher has a fantastic like peak of maintenance tenor voice. And so it's just zero effort. You just give him something to talk about for 10 minutes and you're just like, oh, this is nice. It's like a hot springs for your ears. So this is really a low effort, you know, low labor conversation. However, Clara, your conversation with Debbie is a little bit more brutal. She is not mean, but clearly you are being assessed. Because and you are being assessed with the eye of a professional. So she is asking about you, and she is doing all of the industry phrasing, and she is doing all of the not really gotcha questions, but she's checking you out. It feels very much like a job interview. She is kind of assessing your CV to see where you've been at since the last time you guys spoke for an extended period of time. And so, I mean, really, in short, what do you tell her? I mean, have you done anything since you two kind of drifted apart?
Probably, I mean, a little bit on Broadway and then the work back in Pittsburgh, but Clara basically admits that she's taken time away to be with family, that their father passed away, and she's been supporting her siblings, but now we're out here. She really still believes in the arts, much like she helped build and still to this day supports the Civic Light Opera in Pittsburgh. She's excited for the stage out here, and she has these ideas and thinks that Vegas could be the West Coast Broadway, could be this beautiful fountain of art and excitement and new ideas, especially with all the atomic testing. And she pitches Metropolis. She goes, so there was this old movie. It was very popular. It was very strange. If we jazz it up with a little less clothing, a few more women, but we do this artistic review, we can put Vegas on the map as somewhere that isn't just here to be a distraction, that can actually be an artistic fountain, somewhere that people come for this work. It doesn't just have to be Broadway. We're both out here. Your husband's out here. I have the money. I'm going to do it one way or another. I think this is a great place. Just would be nice to do with old familiar faces. And so that's how Clara pitches it. And while there's she believes in the things that she is saying. She is not pitching a lie. She isn't telling her about the cult aspect of all of it, but everything she's saying, she wants to bring this artistic life to the desert and thinks this is the perfect place because of all of the atomic testing. So she is pitching a very good, passionate lie, but otherwise has been honest about family comes first. Debbie, you just had a baby. You probably understand how that is, but we don't want to lose everything that we worked for as artists because we focused on family for a bit.
Yeah. Actually, I think that went really well. So I'm going to actually, so what you've done is you've described an artistic project that would probably not to Debbie be construed as a threat to her husband.
Yeah, no.
In terms of, I don't think that terms like market share and engagement percentage, I don't think that stuff was really floating around in advertising quite as mechanically as it is in our generation, but the ideas are there, whether they haven't quite been codified. So I think that what she sees is someone who wants to do a thing that is not in direct opposition to her husband's brand new over $1 million contract with the Tropicana here, and doesn't conflict with any of their goals or objectives. So yes, so I'm going to give you a +2 because you have presented your idea in a way that doesn't feel threatening to her. So let us see if we can influence another, which is a charisma roll, and that's a +2.
12, again, +2, +3. Yeah,
nice.
So that's a 15. I just scraped it back.
Great. And the wheels of not commerce, the wheels of influence spin smoothly on your behalf. And you are, we won't go into the nuts and bolts of starting a show. I mean, we're not going to talk about how many dancers or things like that, but you do get the support. I mean, they're not going to finance it, They're going to introduce you to people. You now have scribbled on a cocktail napkin a couple of names of people to contact. It's I know this guy, he'd be willing to fly out. I know this person, he's out here already. Sarah, she does costumes, she's fantastic, you'll love her to pieces, she's weird, and that kind of thing. And Matthew, when Debbie apparently gives some sort of a signal to Eddie that she is happy with whatever's happening, the conversation, like, it just very smoothly pivots. This is a socialite. It smoothly pivots into business. And so it's very much, Matthew, have you ever done anything with have you done anything with your sister? Have you done anything with the opera? Have you supported any of this? I'm sure you've supported it, but you ever been involved in it before?
Has he, in like some of the stuff that we've done, like since you've been in Pittsburgh?
Probably the CLO, because
the
theater needs money that isn't theater money.
Yeah.
So
well, there's donated, thrown money at, yes, but what I'm asked, what I via Eddie am asking is if you believe that Matthew has actually been involved with manifesting a piece of theater.
I think that in the more recent, it's small because it's the stuff that's in Pittsburgh, because it's in the more recent years where he's been trying to find ways to make Clara happy when she is not in New York. So like he'll basically talk about, there, a couple of the shows that they've done, he's mainly like been doing small things because Pittsburgh, but he's really excited about the fact that now they're finally in a place where, Clara, with all of her experience from New York, can stretch her wings. And I know that I have all of my experience from working in the business world, just to be able to, and he'll talk a little bit about the aspects of, he'll lay out also the aspects of like where he's been able to translate it in the small to the larger.
Okay. Yeah. He grasps that you're not an idiot, Matthew. He grasps that you've got a good business sense. He gives you a couple pieces of kind of trite, sayings and phrases, but they are good ones. I mean, he gives you a couple pieces of advice that you're like, oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. One of those things that you'd have engraved in bronze and then put up on the wall in your office, that kind of stuff. He does. He gives you a couple other numbers, a couple other names, and he does make a comment. It's extremely subtle, but he does make a comment of that essentially boils down to, you need to understand that you are at some point going to have to deal with the mob. That, and he says something like other considerations, and then, apply some eyebrow work to it. That, kind of says that like there are greater forces than these in play, sort of thing. Which isn't a surprise to you.
No, not at all.
Well, son of a bitch.
Yeah, like Matthew does not seem surprised in that fact, in that manner.
And that's
because
good.
At this point, like he's kind of gotten that hint. And I think his response would be probably that, he's been looking into such considerations in the time that he's been here.
Okay. He wishes you well. He clearly Debbie's done whatever she's needed to do to make herself happy with Clara. He has done what he's been asked to do. He's, the people that pay him a lot of money asked him to spend a half an hour here and drink a drink and, eat an appetizer or whatever. It's just, he did his social thing. Yeah. He understood that this was an act of social currency, and he did it, and he was, magnanimous and kind, and he interacts with Bethany. If Bethany, Bethany's about the age group that he was a teen heartthrob for. So, I mean, clearly the conversation starts with a series of expectations that I think I'm pretty confident saying that Bethany is not going to match.
Very not going to match that at all.
Yeah. And there's a brief moment where he's like, oh, okay. It's not the first time he's heard that, and he's generally, well balanced and confident in himself, so it's not a big soul destroy moment. But he's like, oh, okay. What music did you listen to? And he's very gentle, he's very kind, and clearly he's used to interacting with ladies through a veneer of romance. And it's smooth, but it's a little gross.
Yeah.
I think. And so it's kind of like that, who stole you away from me, sort of that, who got your attention, sort of thing.
I feel like what Bethany is doing is positioning the conversation on Clara anytime that happens. Just be like, oh, I remember Clara used to listen to your records all the time. Or things like that. And just trying instead to just pivot his attention away from her and back onto her sister. Sorry. Not really sorry. You're supposed to talk to him anyway.
Ufda. Okay. I imagine that's probably handled as well as it could be.
Trying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, and so there's definitely a couple of false starts, and he goes back and talks to Matthew for a while. And
Yeah.
he's clearly attempting to engage all of you in conversation.
Yeah.
And he's definitely absolutely a professional, but he is someone that is used to speaking to people from this position of being a heartthrob. And of being an object of desire, and if not desire, at least some kind of undefined attraction. So when Bethany presents a frictionless glass surface,
Yeah.
he's like, okay, and so he moves on, but it's kind of entertaining and gross, which is kind of how we've managed to describe this entire decade. So I feel like
it's really interesting because it's almost certain that Eddie Fisher was gay and was really closeted. So,
oh no!
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, watch 100%.
Debbie married many gay men.
Yeah, she did.
She did that a lot.
It's absolutely his beard. So watching him try to heartthrob with the other gay person at the table.
Oh my god.
If only they could just talk about it. They could have such fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he never will. He absolutely never will ever.
Oh no.
In his entire fucking life, will he ever in any way, shape, or form out himself where he works in 19?
Yeah. Oh god,
No.
But
the irony.
The
irony.
Yes.
Might at some point be a small look between them, as in, oh, I see.
I would say that probably happens right at the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
When he's already stood up, he's already shaken Matthew's hand. He's already he's done the movie theater kiss with Clara and whatever appropriate goodbye in the context with Bethany. He does make some sort of comment that essentially he doesn't say it, but essentially us fags got to stick together.
Yeah.
In the appropriate stealth language of the time.
Yeah.
But he could deny it. He could deny it in front of Senator McCarthy. That he ever said such a thing, but he absolutely throws a piece of queer code at you and then walks away before anyone could ever respond to it or make him commit to it or anything else. But it was definitely, there was a okay, I see you.
Yeah.
Before they go, Clara is going to ask Debbie so do you know where I can go have some proper fun? I don't know anybody out here, at least nobody who does what we used to do. You remember the club on 50th?
Yes, recognition kind of dances across her face, and she does a little bit of the mental math. and clearly some kind of a decision is made where revelation is beneficial to her.
Mm-hmm.
It was absolutely calculating. This is not a person being friends with you. This is someone making a business decision. And says, well, there's an A-bomb party tonight at a private residence. If you guys want to come, you should at least stop by for a few minutes. A couple of people I'm sure you would like to meet are going to be there. So all of that.
Yes.
I have all of my words with me, but they're just not in the right labeled drawers. The high class drug use code is in play. So it's that, I know a person, yes, I know a dealer. If you come to this thing, even if you're just there for a half an hour, you can make, you can shake hands with them and I can essentially vet you for them and vice versa.
Aces. She will squeeze Debbie's hand and kiss her cheek appropriately and say, of course I'll stop by. I'd never miss it.
Okay.
Yep.
And so the conversation wraps up. So that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks like we've actually managed to accomplish a couple of the beginning steps of some objectives here. It looks like we've gotten some ins into the show business world that now we might be able to make a fucking Metropolis show, which is just
great.
It's entertaining beyond all words. So typically somewhere around like 9:30 we take a break.
Mm-hmm.
So right now what I want to do is, before we go into nighttime, because I know that dealing with seeing what happens when the nuclear bomb goes off, and now there's apparently maybe a party to go to, at least for a little bit, there's some things to do. So before we kind of, wind the clock a little bit, do you guys want to do anything beforehand?
I'd like to roll intuition.
Go for it. Like good old-fashioned intuition or magic-y intuition?
Normal intuition.
Okay.
I want to see if I notice something.
Go for it.
That is a 5 and a 9.
So what are you trying to do? Because I'm not seeing are you trying to read a person?
Yeah, it's read a person.
Okay, great.
But it's not that I'm trying to get like the thing. It's mostly that I don't want to metagame it because I'm here. Like obviously I hear everything. I'm trying to see whether or not Matthew notices how not all right Bethany is right now. And that's why like I want to just, because I don't want to like just be like automatically I know everything that's going on in your internal landscape. So that's why I wanted to kind of like check and see like how well I was going. And Matthew actually is a very intuitive person. So even with the -1 that he's got right now, that's still a 14. Because I want, basically he would reach out to Bethany once they were in the room and be like, because he had to treat her really shittily, and they've had a lot of bonding over him actively trying to like reinforce the fact that she is an adult who like isn't a fragile thing. And they bonded a lot over their sort of mutual sickness in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, just for my 2 cents before that conversation picks up its own steam, what I heard from Bethany was attempting to mask outside of the family.
Yeah.
I didn't hear Bethany say anything about I'm trying to hide this from my siblings.
No.
Okay.
So I believe, in my opinion, that you know as much about Bethany's mental state as Bethany's character wants you to know, because you have multiple decades of understanding her tells and her signs and her masking. It's not exactly the right term because it's not the same neurodivergence, but the ways that she does things.
Then ignore my role and just go with what I said.
Bethany's gonna have to admit that she didn't notice because she wasn't paying attention to the conversations that were happening. There was too much happening, and it was difficult to keep the dice rolling, and it's still loud here in a different way, and the walls keep breathing, and those little mushrooms are still kind of at the corners of everything, and it's...
Bethany, you could show him. You could show him right now if you wanted to. You don't even have to touch him. If he really wants to know how you're feeling, all you have to do is just open up.
Do you want to know?
Yes.
I'm just trying to show him.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe that power is called contagious insanity.
Sure is.
I'm glad you understood what I was implying.
There's a reason that he went on a fear face journey before he said that.
I mean, you're not going to have the problem I am, which is fine by me, because that's what I got the power for in first place, was to have
Oh no, did you get a bad roll?
I rolled a 2.
Oh my god.
Bethany's mental health dice are not here today.
Okie dokie. Okie dokie, smoky McChokey.
Yeah.
All right. That's
No.
awesome.
Yeah.
So your intended victim's own terrors and dark secrets manifest within you instead. You must keep it together. Let's see how well you keep it together while we figure out how this scene looks.
I rolled a 6. She's at like a
negative 85.
She's a negative. Just do a -1 to keep it together. Still, negative disadvantages. But I mean, whatever. It's still a 6 instead of a 5, and so there's not really fixing that.
Yeah, Bethany, how much stability do you have, dear?
Currently, I have 3 stability.
Oh boy.
How many do I have now?
Well, that's the question is if you suffer a life-changing trauma, then you're gonna like drop down to 0 stability.
Yep.
Which causes a significant series of problems immediately.
Whoops.
But while I look that up and consider the ramifications of that, Matthew, what are your deepest fears right now? As Bethany has gone from suck to blow.
Yeah,
in
wow.
the finest Spaceballs manner.
So a lot of what Matthew's dealing with right now, as he's starting to regain strength, is when it comes to fears, is that he's going to not be able to protect his siblings. He's not going to be able to succeed at his goals, that he's going to lose Clara's love, and he is going to lose Bethany to herself in a lot of ways. He's like, it's one of the reasons why, you know, he and Bethany have talked before about like how she is on that sort of precipice all the time, which is why he reached out. And I think there's an aspect of the people that he cares about, losing them to his own failures is a huge aspect of his deep fears. Also, there's that sort of weight of responsibility that's coming back onto his shoulders as he's healing, that he desperately wants and also is terrified of.
Does Matthew's experience yesterday viewing the atomic test site come through at all? That new ambition?
It's hard because it's about the fears more than desire. Is it just because it's more? It seemed like it was more about fears than desires.
It is, but the desire to control is so closely connected to the fear of the absence of it.
I think that there's that aspect, certainly. Like, when the aspect of, like, if we really want to go, like, macro, like, his goal is to be able to be the type of person that could sit on that demiurge seat, right? And which is way, way higher goals than he should have. Like, Matthew, sit the fuck down. Like, I'm just gonna put that out there. And the
take several seats.
Fear of failing at gaining that power, or even the fear of that he would hold that power in his hands and he would essentially show himself to be too weak to hold it, is absolutely terrifying to him. So there's certainly that aspect that comes with, like, the atomic bomb, as that is so much power and he has never held that much power. As long as he doesn't have it, there's the chance that he won't fail.
And I feel like that dovetails very nicely into his current emotional state with Clara as well. I mean, this other people are in charge of things that are important. Other people have power over things that are important to me. That's kind of,
Yep.
You know, that's Matthew's favorite thing to disassociate about in the shower right now.
Oh, yeah.
So, Bethany, there's generally three options. There's paralysis, fear, shock paralysis. There is significant trauma, which is -2 stability, like, seeing these kinds of things screws you up. Or there is full 18 gigaton clusterfuck, a dramatic character direction changing experience, and that's a -4 stability. And then that would be combo womboed with Bethany hitting 0 stability.
Yeah.
And that seems like a very big domino to fall at the end of this. It totally can, but it's significant enough that I'd like to absolutely get your input on it.
Like, if I'm okay with the domino falling, if everybody else is, I guess. Like, she's been not great for a while. For, like, the last several games. And I guess I feel like something should happen about it, but I'm not... like, super beholden to her mental consequences.
I think then we should stick with the -2 stability.
Okay.
That's a significant traumatic event, and rather than having her melt all the way down, she gets to keep a little bit.
Okay.
So I feel like the emotional trauma would be, some of it is a recognition of your own capabilities. That you went to show Matthew yourself and you flipped the lope on him, which I don't think is what anyone planned for.
No.
And also the fact that your brother, who spent so much time both attempting to embody and reject Papa Mal and all of his training, yea, verily, indoctrination, would do some pretty terrible fucking things to get access to atomics just for the sheer power to control. And that's a lot.
Yeah.
So how does all this look from the outside, Yins, too? Just Clara's over here like the Flash in the scene from the movie when Superman's eyes move when he's going at high speed.
Yeah, she knows something is very wrong and she doesn't know what it is, and she is very, very worried. And it's pouring them both a drink about it, because that's her one. Which is like, whatever's happening, they'll tell me after, and whiskey helps. So she's pouring them both like 3 fingers of whiskey with 2 rocks, and kind of gently sets the glasses down in front of them and goes, I don't know what's going on or how I can help, but I am here. And she kind of reaches for both of their hands just to hold on and try to ground them both. She has no clue how to do this. She's not a therapist, but she wants to bring them back to reality.
Matthew's reaction is going to be based on what Bethany's is, because I don't think he sees anything or feels anything since it reversed. So it's going to be based on what he sees from Bethany.
I think that Bethany is crying. But it's that her strongest emotional reaction to everything she just learned about from Matthew is more about the intimate family things than the power things. Like, yeah, it's scary that Matthew wants an atom bomb, but the scariest part of that for Bethany is that that's so much power here. And the last time we talked about it, the reason we're building power here is so that we can leave. And how much power is Matthew going to have here that he's not going to want to leave? And that how much of a burden is she on Matthew that she relies on him and she needs him in this world? Like she's not very good at being here, and she has hopes that when they move to the next place, she will be better. It will be a place she understands more, and she can function more, and she can be a more full person and a better part of this family instead of the person that they always have to protect and keep an eye out for and keep her out of the mental hospital and, you know, make those jokes that she didn't even hear because everything was too loud. And that, so now she feels guilty about the burden of responsibility her like existence has placed on Matthew.
The opposite of his goal.
Big oof. Is the player okay?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, great. Everybody else? Okay, great.
So Matthew, after not seeing anything and then instead seeing Bethany just crying, like he doesn't know what's happened.
And it's like a weird mixture of like, not exactly like fear crying, but also like this intense feeling of apology and also pity for Matthew. That is a complicated set of tears.
Very complicated set of tears. I think like he has you know, when he absolutely allows Clara to hold on to his hand, and I think he just, if she allows it, just kind of tucks Bethany against him in the way that, like, when they were kids, sometimes when things were too much, you know, he just would hug or hold or be a pressure.
I'm gonna roll dice about this.
Yeah, do it. Because he's gonna attempt, but that doesn't mean he's gonna succeed.
she both really, really wants to get into that and doesn't. Like, it's very annoying. Okay. I mean, I rolled a 14 about it. I don't know what that means about lunch.
I feel like you need to first figure out what you want the dice to mean.
What I wanted it to do. Well, it's that... So she really, really wants to let that happen, and I'm not sure if I want that to have been read a person, on Matthew about why he's doing the gesture. Because if he's doing it because she is broken and he needs to protect her, she's going to say no. Because that's all the fear stuff that she just saw. And like letting him do that means that she is, in her own mind, feeding into those fears and verifying for him that she needs that.
I think that instead, because like, if it was just a thing of like, oh, I need to protect her, he'd like sit her down and get some water and like try to talk her through it. Mm-hmm. This is sort of more of a visceral. Bethany tried to show it, and it goes back to like how much Matthew has been wrapped up in like his recent failings. Like Bethany tried to show me a part of her, and I wasn't able to see it. Like, and he thinks that he fucked up. Like, he thinks that like it couldn't go through his brain, right? Like that, because he knows that he's stuck in this world more than Bethany is, and that he doesn't fully understand the stuff that's out there in the way that Bethany has, especially as they've kind of grown more and more confident of being able to trust Bethany's sight. Mm-hmm. Like that sort of thing of like, he's understood that like in many ways Bethany is their eyes and ears in a way that he and Clara can't be. And so, you know, he basically was like, show me this thing, and it didn't work. And he doesn't know what to do other than to say that he's sorry. Because for him, it's the idea that he has blocked her sight again. Like, he has not been able to understand her in the way that he asked to understand her. And that, for him, it's he feels like he's betrayed her because of like the conversations we've had before. It's like he's been trying to be able to understand.
So yeah, so I think what happens is that she pauses to like really look at him when he offers the gesture, and seeing that, then she does like go into like being small and hugged.
I think he's crying too, quite frankly.
I mean, yeah.
Everybody's
crying now.
We're all crying.
He's crying now.
Yeah. Actually, Clara wants to do a thing as everybody's crying, and she's kind of crying and looks at a clock and goes, I love both of you so much, and none of us are at our best. We should all go to that bed and get an hour or two of a nap before we have a very long day. And I don't care if we're laying in a bed like we are 9 years old again. We have in the past. Just let's go lay down. Let's get a little bit of sleep and just be together, and then get up at midnight and get ready for whatever is happening. And she's not letting go of the one hand of Bethany she has, and she's kind of reached around Bethany to touch Matthew's side, so we're in this little sibling cinnamon roll with Bethany in the middle.
Trauma pastry.
Pastry.
From his place in the trauma pastry, Matthew will nod. Like, he's for that.
She kind of kisses Bethany's hair. Nap. Sleep just an hour.
Okay. That was cool. So, I really don't feel the need to put any, like, narrative flourish on that, because I think that you guys really like handled that perfectly. Statistically, I want to ask what your relationship numbers are between Matthew and Bethany right now.
Last time it was 2.
I think it still is. Yeah, Matthew's at 2.
Yeah.
Okay. You can raise that if you want to after that brief burst of psychic vulnerability.
I think so.
I think, yeah.
Okay. And then both of you recover 3 stability.
Whoa, so many.
Yeah, I think that was more than a decade's worth of stuff.
There's a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff.
I feel like that was like a time-lapse unpacking moment.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So here's what we're gonna do, cultists at home. We're gonna take a quick break. We're all gonna lay on the floor and cry about it, and we'll be back in about 5-10 minutes, and then we're gonna find out what the hell happens at a nuclear bomb party, and the answer is not gonna be nothing. So we will see you in a few minutes. We'll see you, what, 9:45?
Yeah,
Like
probably.
says 9:36, 9:45-ish.
Yeah.
So we'll see you then. In a scene from 20 years ago, 3 of the Van Horst siblings wake up, tangled in too much bed, too much bedding, and there is a brief moment where everything since 1937 hasn't happened. Papa is still healthy. World War II hasn't changed the world. You get just a few moments of that before other things. Before the different smells and the different textures and the different colors and the different thread count intrude. And for Bethany, the intrusion of reality on a comfortable lie is familiar. For the other 2 of you, this is a little bit more of a jarring experience of the world forcing itself in. But we do feel maybe a little bit better. At least some of the brain chemistry is balanced, arguably balanced. So what is our plan tonight? Are we going to stay all night at the party? Are we going to witness another detonation surrounded by people? Or are we going to go out into the desert and maybe try to find some privacy out in the bleak, howling hell?
Claire's thought, as she changes clothes and puts on things more party appropriate, is I would like to stay an hour at this party, not even enough to bump elbows, to make some introductions, to get the things I need, and then we take the car to where we had the picnic. We know that we can have a sight of it there. We've been along that route before, and at least it'll be generally private. And we can compare what we saw at the picnic in the day to what happens at night.
I think that makes sense. We don't want to... If something odd happens, we don't want to be surrounded by people at a party.
It's generally not great when that happens.
No.
Yes. So I think that us going, getting whatever social niceties and other things that we need should be enough.
All right.
Okay. Do you take do you take David with you? Do you take your driver? Or are you taking yourselves?
I think we should take David. We shouldn't drive ourselves there, and I don't necessarily want to go alone to the picnic at night after what happened last.
If we take David, this will be where he finds out. He knows. We might break him. We just have to go in knowing that if we decide to do that. Am I wrong?
If he stays with us, he's going to find out sooner or later.
Bethany, what do you think?
Guess can't know if he would rather live in this lie, but I think he deserves the truth.
Does everyone deserve the truth?
No, but he's
No.
earned it.
But he is ours.
Okay.
So we take David.
Okay. Do we do the classic driver stay with the car?
For the
Thank-
party, at least.
Okay.
Yeah, at least for the party.
He is well pleased to be brought along on this late night escapade, as opposed to the last late night escapade that ended with him wrapping a still beating severed human heart in his sandwich wrapper and sluicing no small amount of Matthew out of the back seat.
So there is the question that Matthew will ask his sisters before they go, which is, how much do we want to warn him that strange things may occur? I mean, it might just be like during the day where it was nothing happened, you just saw things. So it'd be awkward if that's what, if it's just like that. But also, how much do we want to prepare him?
I think he's worked for us long enough to be prepared for the possibility.
That is valid.
I think it's worth telling him that there is something strange and awful in the awe-inspiring term, not awful in the miserable word, like the literal definition of awful going on, and we trust him and want him in our lives enough for him to see it too, and whatever happens, he should be prepared for it, but that we want him to actually understand some of the things that are going on, and that's why we've asked him along, and that we want to be honest about that.
He may take it best from you, Bethany.
From me? Oh no, from Bethany.
He seems to... He's protective of you.
I can try.
Okay. So what do you?
Yes, but in really oblique terms. He's not good at this. It like the most gentle of a like, we don't know what to expect from tonight, and possibly dangerous things will happen. And I know you've seen a lot of horror things, but this may be like nothing you've ever seen before.
David's response is a little depressing.
Mm-hmm.
The look he gives you is bland.
Mm-hmm.
It's not very emotional. It's very low facial affect vibe. And frankly, it reminds you, for better and for worse, of the exceedingly cautiously blank face of your monster bodyguard, Sophia.
Mm-hmm.
There was a face that Sophia placed upon her lie that she hid herself in. That was the face that she used when she was waiting for you to say exactly the right thing. Almost as it's when we've talked about how she would be kind to you, but only in the ways that she could figure out how to be kind within the structure of her non-consensual bindings.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's the look that he has is very much someone who is experiencing a lot of emotions and who is not permitting any of them to come out. Your experience is from Sophia, but you could also imagine that this is a skill set necessary to be developed by a soldier.
Yeah.
His response is very bland and essentially, do I need to go get my gun?
It wouldn't hurt.
Okay. I will be back in 5 minutes. And he leaves, he goes back into the hotel, and he comes back out. He's not responding correctly. He's not going, what do you mean there's strange things out there in the world? I thought that it was just the thing with the heart. I thought it was just, something that I maybe didn't understand. None of the coping mechanisms, the denial, the bargaining, all the stages of kind of grief/revelation, none of those things are happening. And he just seems to go, okay, and move on.
Mm-hmm.
Which is not great for David long term.
Sorry you're coming on our adventure, buddy.
So to the party.
Party.
In our current convivial mood.
Mm-hmm.
Folks, it was real. They had nuclear bomb parties. Yeah, right. I know. It's fucking bananimals. But they had them, and this is one of them. But this one is generally, it's an entertainer's party. So there's copious alcohol. There's big names running around talking to each other. You're fairly certain that if you had a camera, you could get like one of those super great candid shots of like 3 or 4 famous people, like
yeah,
with the alcohol glasses, and like one of them is laughing in a really like goofy, uproarious sort of way, and that's the picture that they put up somewhere. And it's many big names are here, kind of a lot of people who are power players in the entertainment industry in Las Vegas right now. There are a couple of people that nobody recognizes, but there's always the behind the scenes power. And so you see what the behind the scenes look like. You hear a couple of East Coast, New Jersey, New York accents in here. They don't really, their personages don't really leap out to you right now, but you'll probably recognize them later if you see them again. But Debbie is there. She, greets you. I mean, she's clearly a lot less sober than she was at dinner time, and she's a little bit more energetic, and introduces you to people. Who do all 3 of you go in? Does Clara just go in by herself? What's our party order here?
It's up to all of you. Clara wants to go in, socialize for about an hour. She's not just going in, getting drugs and getting out. She's trying to make a few contacts, but if you all want to like help prepare David, who might not need it, and stay behind, it's fine. Claire's going in one way or another.
Matthew needs to make contacts as well, so he's probably going to be going in.
Bethany's gonna go then because she's not gonna sit in the car with the driver while her siblings go to a party, because that's sad. She will just be very uncomfortable and drink in a corner about it.
Okay. There are plenty of corners to drink in a corner with.
Claire's definitely keeping eyes open because this is it's an entertainment party, a slightly illicit party, especially if there's drugs and mob there. For the women that like women.
Aww.
She's gonna try to send at least one in Bethany's direction.
Bethany, do you get any positive responses?
Yeah. Like, they're not the woman in red, but it's nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you'd like a phone number or two, feel free to have one. You know, it's there's no narrative pressure one way or the other, so you just kind of get to pick how this goes for Bethany.
Yay.
So you know, you derive whatever value out of that you'd like to.
Fantastic.
I will say at this party, Clara is even more on than she was at the dinner, or at least she is trying to be. She is now slightly more sober and more slept because the hit that she took has mostly worn off at this point. So she is more aware, but also doing her best to be bubbly and bright and charismatic and attractive, and just it's coming back out into entertainment society, which she hasn't really been a part of for a while again, and she is trying to remind them who she is and how good she is, and that she will make a splash here again. And she's lots of fun and very flirtatious and dances well, and is just trying to be a gentle life of the party without upstaging Debbie.
Okay. And your plan on like, you know, show up, fuck shit up, leave. You know, that's actually giving you a chance to put more energy into a smaller space.
Yep.
Because, you know, like, you're not going to upstage anybody for all night. You're almost...
She's making a victory of herself.
Yeah. May I present the idea that you are a special guest on a talk show. You show up, you're super interesting for a sprint, and then you're gone.
Yep.
And then leave the other people to do their thing.
Bingo.
Matthew, do you make a couple connections, shake a couple hands, some hi how are yas?
Basically, like his sort of things to try to get a feel for how socialization works here as opposed to like back home. He's trying to watch and be able to get the sort of social cues and mimicry that, you know, anyone who is involved in the business world has to pick up when they're in different environments.
Yeah. You shake hands with a man who doesn't give you his name. You know, hi, I'm Matthew Van Horst, and he says, it's a pleasure to meet you. You know, did you know where did you find the bar yet?
Oh, you sure, of course.
Yeah, it just very, very smoothly. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's in a 3-piece suit. My God, like if you walked down the street and someone said, I'll give you $500 if you tell me who the gangster is, you'd point at this guy and just make the give me the money gesture. He just, you know, there is a look to him. There is a style. He has that New Jersey, New York accent. He's almost a trope. It's almost a caricature. If this wasn't the decade that those tropes were made, you know, this is the generation that those ideas were set. You know, and so he shakes your hand. The one thing that you do notice is he has a on his left hand, which is clearly not his dominant hand, he has a straight line amputation across his fingers that looks almost like an industrial accident, because it's not burnt, it's not war trauma, it's not all sorts of damage up and down his hands. It just looks like something just pinched him off, and it looked like it happened decades ago, because all the skin has done all of the healing things that you know it would do under such a situation. And he's clearly used to it. I mean, he's not doing any of the overcompensation things of a new injury. So he's a gangster. He doesn't give you his name. Looks like he's maybe in his mid 40s, maybe late 30s, mid 40s, depending on how hard the first 20 years were. A little heavy set, likes his cigars, and clearly seems to be, he's not running the house, but if he said that something needed to go a certain way, he had the posture of someone who expected it to happen.
Okay.
You know, if this guy turned to somebody and said, open another bottle of champagne, you are fairly certain that you will hear a cork in the next 30 to 45 seconds. This is someone who is in a place where they have power and they have authority and they know it, and if they want to use it, they can. And the vibe of power almost embeds itself on your mind even more so than his physical appearance. And
he takes note.
Yes, and he does take a note of you. When he says Van Horst, he doesn't stumble, nor does he do the almost traditional German speeding it up, or making it a Ven or a Von. He doesn't put some of that a different pronunciation on it. So this is someone who has heard your name and has heard it pronounced more than once.
Interesting. Yeah, like basically Matthew, this is a very brief moment to be able to make a good impression, but damn if he doesn't try.
Yeah. It's you think you do. And this is you have a feeling that when you see him later that you're going to recognize him. That
Mm-hmm.
You're going to say, okay, I know into some of the circles in which you travel.
Yeah.
Clara meets a dealer. She is introduced, and vetting is given both ways.
Beautiful.
And
she probably tries to buy that night because she would just rather have it on her.
Yes, not a lot.
That's fine.
But enough.
Enough. Something is better than nothing.
Mm-hmm. Which is good, because this is a high energy situation.
Yep.
And this is not something that Clara has really ever done sober, is it?
No. Mm-mm. Nope.
But hands are shaken, drugs are bought, eyelashes are batted all around. It was a nice little hour. You know, it really felt like you guys packed like a whole evening out into a 60-minute quarter marathon. So that was kind of nice. I mean, the vibe seems to be a little high energy coming out of there. It's not perfect, but it went well enough. David picks you guys up, and a song that kind of a boppy little melody is on the radio. It's clearly whatever David was listening to while he was hanging out. You guys tool off to the desert to watch a reality-severing nuclear detonation from as close as you possibly can, and witness the barbaric supernatural effects it has on the tiny little lie that you are tucked so delicately into.
You know, like you do.
Like you do.
Like you do.
You know. And it's Tuesday in Las Vegas. What the fuck else are you going to do? So you find your spot. You're not sure if it's the same spot, but it's an adequate spot. Yeah. It's really fucking dark out here. Like, it's really, really, really fucking dark. You can see the lights of Las Vegas behind you. You can see the beginning of light pollution. Maybe you could see just the tiny little glow of some more distant cities by the mountains, but it is dark, and the stars are out in their uncounted billions, painting the sky. And the air is desert clear, and you can see more of the sky than you ever could at home. And there is a sense of bigness and of expanse.
Clara looks up at the stars and then just kind of grabs Matthew's hand and pulls him in for a kiss for a few moments. It's beautiful, and she hasn't done that all night.
Mm-hmm.
This is her back, and there's just a moment where he will rest his forehead against hers and then look up.
And as he's looking up after that moment, she reaches out for Bethany, trying to pull her closer, so they are all like joined in witnessing stars and being siblings together and enjoying it.
Okay. You don't hear exactly what it is because there's a bunch of reverb and there's echo, and it's definitely far away, but you hear the of, you know, something is happening at the base. I mean, it's about that time, and so generally things seem to be moving on. Some lights turn off at the base, some other lights turn on. It's a thing, and yeah.
Can I do and everybody might want to use their special thing.
Yeah.
Enhanced awareness, like in preparation.
Yeah, it would definitely, if you want to use any of your viewing skills, feel free.
That's what we came to see.
Yeah, but it's yeah.
Do it and hope the roll doesn't go awful.
No one, please tear a hole in the.
Yeah, I was gonna say
right now.
the tearing a hole in reality is the worry.
1 and a 9, so it's not great, but I don't think I tore a hole in things.
Was that enhanced awareness?
Yeah.
Woof.
I saw the 1 and I was like, oh no. But no, so that's a 10, and I don't have any penalties for anything. So
Okay. Well, 10's not a 9.
It's not a 9. Woo.
Okay. Either of you two want to deploy any sort of sensory apparatus?
Yeah, I think we can both magical intuition at it because we might catch different stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Unless Matthew wants to do something else, but
Yeah, I might do magical intuition probably. Or last time I didn't do magical intuition, I did see through the illusion, but that one is real dangerous.
see, if I was as broken as I was before we had a trauma like pastry, I would attempt to see through the illusion because I was at +1 to that. But I'm not anymore, so
I'm
Sorry.
we're stable, so we're just gonna go with magical intuition at this point.
Okay.
I rolled a 13 and I have +4 souls, so that's a 17. Let me check for negatives.
You've also got Sixth Sense, right?
I do. I forgot to roll out at the beginning of the game.
We did.
can roll that now if you want. Let's see.
Yeah, let's see, because act first in a threatening situation
I can roll good.
might apply the hell out of the next 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm also doing
I got a 14 on Sixth Sense.
Great.
nice.
What else are you doing, Matthew?
Oh, I'm also doing magical intuition, but like we may just get the same information, Bethany and Matthew. I got a 15 minus 1 plus 2, so 16.
Alrighty. So, you have all, in this moment, really managed to fine-tune your experiences and traumas, and in this is probably really one of the first times that you really felt like you were trying to see other things really under your own control. Because even when you came out here before, Matthew was physically torturing himself to bring on ecstatic visions, and Bethany's always kind of on a rough ride, and Clara's attempt to see things as often drug-induced or something else, but this seems to be kind of this moment where things are calm and cool and collected. And so there's this moment kind of where the three of you open yourselves up and pierce the veil a little bit and see through the illusion, and there is a detonation as the nuclear bomb goes off at approximately the right time. And there is a brief moment, like a fizzling flicker of terrible things, but this time it is below you, and set into the mountains there are great gateways, giant arches of stone and basalt doors, and fucking mausoleums, and the S word that's like mausoleums that's not coming out of my mouth right now.
Okay.
And graves and these twisted, immense skyscrapers. And it is only a flicker of it. It's not like that brilliant screaming moment of insane clarity when you were out at the flop house when the nuclear bomb detonated and there were giants and tall trees and things like that. There's just kind of a sort of brief flickering revelation and a sense of something rushing at you from underground. If you imagine, the sense is almost like knowing that a sewer pipe is backed up. If you've ever, if you reach back into your character's memories and imagine, a sewage system failing in downtown Pittsburgh, that sound of liquid coming up, pushing air out ahead of it, that gurgling sort of viscous, gelatinous sound that it's just absolutely awful. And it's what you can all piece together briefly in this moment is that someone absolutely has targeted you with a working. And this is all the visual and sensory side effect of some intended something. And the thing that is the most strong feeling out of these strange sepulchral visuals and audios, and the scent of dried blood and burnt bone and freshly cut stone that fill your nose, the thing that is really the strongest sensation is that sewage system backing up vibe. It's like everything else, but there's this and but there's no orgasm. There's no payoff. There's no climax. There's just, and something doesn't work right, or something isn't empowered right, or something doesn't go right. And so instead of whatever hellish, terrible thing someone called up, not called down, called up at you, instead of it dragging you down into wherever it was, or manifesting itself adequately to kill you, it didn't fucking work anywhere near as much as you wanted it, as somebody wanted it to. And so instead of a mind-boggling, chthonic horror bubbling up from the depths of whatever this place is, you just kind of get this sense of the dirt around you rising slightly and becoming wet underneath. Like your feet aren't wet, but it's just like the consistency of the mud that was just packed dirt is now mud, and there's a wetness underneath you, and it's just that, it's gross, and it lends itself to a sense of sewer lines and of fat clogging a kitchen sink, and of the stench of the annual extreme deep cleaning of the horse barns at home, that manure-y, but it is a death smell. These are all smells at the end of life, or at the end of a process of existence. This is termination and waste product coming up to we are all, including myself, because that means I don't have to describe it, extremely happy that on this day that the nuclear test named Franklin didn't work right. It fizzled. There was a failure in ignition. It did not actually even breach a megaton. It just kind of went on the nuclear scale. It went. I mean, it still would launch you to the fucking moon, Acme cartoon style. But the reality splitting horror that is atomics doesn't work, because these are mortal men with mortal minds and mortal sciences taking a hammer and chisel to the lie. And sometimes it's not going to go right, because this is an inexact science. The one thing that you are absolutely, you're sure of a couple of things. First of all, it was targeted. Okay? So this is beyond a shadow of a doubt. You guys didn't walk into, in as much as the flop house was probably not an accident, this is something. This was targeted. And two, Daniel noticed too, or he noticed you noticing, and he is 0 degrees Kelvin. Like, his gun is in his hand. He has a flashlight in the other hand. He was waiting for someone to tell him to turn it on because you guys are doing the stargazing thing. He has a flashlight in his other hand that he hasn't turned on yet, but his eyes in the dark are glittering.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not predator shine. This isn't an organic shine. This is a wet metal gleam, or a glass optic gleam. This is the kind of glimmer that is above a trench, or the kind of shine that is the only thing that tells you that you didn't actually get the sniper. It is not predatory. There is no instinct. There is no bestial quality to this. This is a machine. Tightly wound with a 7-pound trigger waiting to be fired. And then the moment fades, and there's good old Daniel.
I think David. Right?
David.
So we all were like using a lot of different things at this time. Since we were all kind of had our minds and selves open, can we, when we look at like and see that sort of glitter, like my assumption is that's what's showing us like the true nature of David right now. That sort of awakening.
Yeah. He's not awakened.
Yeah.
He is not aware. He has not consciously identified that the world is more complicated and terrible, but something has happened to him that has altered him on a fundamental level. Does a tree know when its stump is used for executions?
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, what is the sound of one hand clapping but with C4 and jellied gasoline and howitzer shells?
He reminds Clara of Sophia on the table, or the potential of what we could build him into if he wanted to be. Like, for a moment with enhanced awareness, I was like, oh, is he a hidden soldier? Is he already glass and metal and we don't see it?
No,
but he could be. That's Clara's uncomfortable thought. If he wants to be.
No, yeah, he's not an Osgoul, and you can't make him into an Osgoul because you need one of the beautiful ones to make one.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make them out of people. And Clara, you had a dream once.
Yeah.
Where you were a beautiful one and you were taken, and everything inside you was taken out because someone who looked a lot like Bethany said you didn't need it anymore. And would you do that to David? Would you peel him open and cut out what isn't necessary?
No, only if he wanted it. So no.
Okay.
But the uncomfortable thought was there. Gonna sit with that a minute. Yeah. And that memory. She kind of squeezes Matthew's hand a little tighter because that memory is there, and she's not certain how empty she is in reality either. So, yeah. Old feelings.
Yeah, this isn't the right decade for perfect reproductive health medicine.
Mm-mm. It's okay. Somebody tried to kill us, and And Clara, like, as she almost drowns in feelings for a moment, goes, somebody tried to kill us.
Again.
Again.
And they're going to keep trying.
How do we trace it? How do we see where that magic came from? Can you, either of you, see an echo of anything? You're better at this than I am.
One of the things, so this isn't a creature. This is an act, right?
You are fairly certain that if the nuclear bomb had ignited successfully, some kind of fucking critter would have shown up.
I will try to learn something about the creature's true nature if I can, to try to, because I am trying to like figure out how do we trace this shit.
Okay, immediate answer is that this is a creature of death.
Yeah.
Once again, this is a creature of gross, awful, wet, fat stuff. And if it came out, it would have annihilated you. But it is also a creature, but it is a old creature, and it is an amalgamation of deaths. It is it is the fat in the drain of 1,000 years of 1,000 bodies rendered down for fat, poured down a tube, and somehow animated with malicious consuming intelligence.
This tapped into so much death that it's not something that was able to just be from something recent.
Yeah.
And he'll say that verbally. Whoever's doing this is someone who has access to a history of death.
Well, the last time it was death magic too. Whoever it was, found those people and cut their hearts still beating out of their bodies and buried them around the house so they would come for us.
We might want to start looking at morgues.
Hmm.
You're not wrong.
Maybe. But they were still alive, the first ones.
Yes.
You wouldn't find them in a morgue.
I know, I'm thinking about this one. The issue is that if this... We have a timetable, don't we?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's... Like, I would assume that less the morgue, but more a hospital would be a place to find someone unconscious or dying or easily missed. But it doesn't feel like the hospital felt. It's it just feels like the things that sent us to the hospital.
And this isn't just something that would be not... In this case, it's different than the other one because this is thousands.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than you could have missed. This is something that's been building up. We need to look and see whether or not there are places of great death in this, in Vegas. We need to look at the history.
Okay. Yeah.
I can do that, and I can talk to DeFontaine again and see if he has any updates about the things that we found in that house.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew's eye totally doesn't twitch, and he's like, yes. Yes, accurate. But yeah, I think that's knowing more about this place and where places of a lot of death have happened here, I think are going to be the best sort of things. But do we know when the next detonation is?
June 5th.
And we are on...
You are in butt crack of dawn, June 2nd in the morning.
Great, we've got 3 days before we might die. We've got to trace this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
This was absolutely an escalation.
Mhm.
The first thing was the utilization of death magic to create some locally occurring monsters. You almost don't want to use like boring language to describe it, because once you start normalizing it, it stops being something that you take seriously. But someone used small magic to do a ritual, and then used the weakening of the illusion caused by the nuclear bomb to make it work.
And still nearly killed one of us.
Yeah.
That was absolutely life or death and was completely horrific and the most hellish night that we've had in a very long time.
And this one might have actually been worse if the nuke had gone off correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if this is escalation, no one does escalation like the Van Horsts.
Yep.
So we'll show them exactly what that means. But first we have to find them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too.
Bethany, can you just roll me a straight, intuition? Just roll a plus intuition roll.
Okay, well, I'm at least a 10, and my intuition's pretty good. Check. Okay. Okay, my intuition is +2, so that's a 12, solidly in the middle.
Okay, and nothing to be ashamed of.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. You're not entirely certain how this works. You're way out of your thaumaturgical depth here.
Mm-hmm. Bethany is also intuitive, but I think a person has to be in front of me in the reader person for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This person cannot accomplish these things without the assistance of a nuclear bomb.
Yeah.
Like, they're not shackling the whole fucking nuke by any means. They're just taking advantage of the damage being done to the illusion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To accomplish magic that they are not equipped to accomplish by themselves. They are punching above their weight.
Mm-hmm.
Good news, bad news. They're punching above their weight. You might be able to punch above your weight.
Mm-hmm.
If you are willing to try to stick a bit and bridle in a mushroom cloud.
Yeah. We know who they are.
So
maybe stop them.
That's probably not going to go well.
Nope.
That's a terrible plan. I just want that to be very clear.
Oh yeah, absolutely terrible plan.
All right. So we are on a timer. We have 3 days to figure out what the fuck is going on before another nuclear bomb goes off.
Yeah.
And I don't know, what's their success rate? They probably won't say that. They go off enough that it's become a cultural phenomenon. So
yeah,
more booms than bops. So you may really have 3 days. Oh, and by the way, you're going to try to put on a show
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and get yourself
in
a
with the mob.
girlfriend.
Yep.
Yeah, and make friends with the mob.
Yeah.
So, it's a short to-do list, but it's all in 16-point font.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
As long as you don't expand the task list, it looks measurable. It looks manageable.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like how you say it looks manageable. Matthew's like, looks manageable. Elon is like, ah.
Yeah. So yeah. I think that we're gonna roll credits right there in terms of story.
Yep.
From Wrath and Tears, thank you very much, and good night.